shotgun suicides are the worst because of the blast from the gun. We found parts of somebody's ear on a window, on the window frame. It had gone behind the curtains and like by the blinds.
Oh!
Probably the most difficult cleans to do because the blood and skull fragments, everything goes everywhere.
Yo! Yo, chat, being a crime scene cleaner is OD. Yo, salute to anybody that does crime scene cleaning, bruh. I know that's not for the weak, but let's get into it.
So I was born in Canterbury and grew up there for a little bit in Herne Bay, near the seaside, and then moved to the Medway towns. I don't really remember much of it because I moved away when I was 5, but I always go back to the seaside. It feels like home to me, hearing the waves, and I like going back there.
What did you want to do when you were a child?
I wanted to be a marine biologist.
But 2026 has been going really well for me. This is the year I've become a new man. I like that.
To love
dolphins. I like that, Austin.
And, but then you had to be really, really clever to do that.
What led you into crime scene cleaning?
So I started off cleaning an office. It was very successful, had lots of recommendations. And just started cleaning people's houses and ovens and carpets and got into that. I had a phone call one day because there was a drug den locally.
I need to get a shirt from you.
And I was terrified of needles.
The website is not active right now due to the company that I was using or partnering with to handle the back end. So if you are still interested in purchasing the t-shirt, bruh, if you have, what's your size first and foremost?
And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going there. There's needles there and blood and everything. And I went home and it was really playing on my mind that I'd turned down this opportunity. So I did some research into becoming accredited to know how to handle, scary scenes and needles and blood and everything. I wanted to make sure that cleaning for me would be unlimited. There was nothing that I couldn't clean.
What was the kind of training that you got on those?
It's very hands-on, so you have your classroom training, and then obviously from then you have actual, they take you to these units where they do a real-life scenario where they have blood spills for you to clean up and you have to do needle picks and needle sweeps, and they hide needles in the most obscure places to make sure you don't miss them. It looks like there's an armchair there as if someone has committed suicide and died on the armchair, or there's always a bed scenario as well because a lot of unattended deaths happen, obviously, when someone's passed away in bed.
And then what was the actual job title that you now have?
So I will refer to myself as a biohazard specialist and decontamination specialist. I clean up for trauma. So if somebody has unfortunately committed suicide, if there's been an accident where there's been a lot of blood spilled, unattended deaths, which mean if somebody has unfortunately passed away and not been found immediately, I clean drug dens, brothels, for hoarders. I clean for landlords if they've had squatters in their property and they've destroyed the house and torn it apart. Yeah, and then I also clean ovens. So everything, really.
What was the first crime scene you went to?
So the very first one I got a phone call for was from a local authority where a child had passed away in the property due to a neglect case. I think it was the cause of death was starvation. And that one, to be honest with you, obviously the body isn't there. It's been removed by the police, and the family had been evicted from the property because it was a council property. So we had to go in after and obviously completely turn the property around for a new family to live there. Damn. So it was left in a pretty horrific state. When we walked in, there was clothes everywhere, rubbish everywhere. The saddest thing is that there was food everywhere. And obviously it was a starvation case that we'd been informed of. So there was, when we went through the house, it was quite a big house. The fridge was full of food everywhere. And there was just debris everywhere. There was bags and bags of rubbish, lots of clothes, lots of toys as well, which was quite sad. When you went into the child's bedroom, there was like a cot bed there and toys around. So seeing the aftermath, knowing that there was a child that was alive playing with those toys and now they've gone due to a neglect case, that was really tough for me, especially having a daughter.
Do you ever research the story before or after?
No, I don't. I tend to not ask. So it's people try to deburden themselves. So if they know when I get a phone call, I tend to ask if it was a suicide or an unattended death, because then I know what I'm walking into. Suicide, there's potentially going to be blood everywhere, depending on how the person has, committed suicide. Unattended death is normally in one place because they've died in one area, and then it's just going to be that specific area that needs to be cleaned. If they say, no, it's not that, it's this and this happened, I tend to go, it's okay, I don't need details, I don't want to know. Especially when you're walking into a crime scene or a trauma event, you can work out for yourself what's happened. As you walk in, you can see how the kind of story is unfolded.
That's interesting. Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, sure. So there was 2 roommates that I had a call out for who lived in Brighton, and they'd had a dispute over a girlfriend, and one had stabbed the other, and he survived, luckily. But when we went through the house, you could see where he'd been stabbed out in the street, had come up the flights of stairs to get some help, and you could see the handprints going through the flight of stairs going up to the apartment. On the door, it was a wooden door, there was a big handprint smudge on there. He went into the bathroom first, I think, and you could see his handprints, bloody handprints, and the blood's just dripping on the carpet, not on the floor of the bathroom, and then coming out to the hallway, into the kitchen, where I think he eventually then got help and was seen.
Can you separate yourself at that point from being a cleaner and being a human when you see those stories?
It's difficult.
Yeah, chat. Yo, imagine getting a call for a job of a dude or a person unaliving themselves, and then you go up to the crime scene. I mean, you got to be numb to it. Like, you can't mentally prepare for something like that. You just got to be. That's crazy.
Emotions. But when I'm in the house or the property or the flat or whatever it is, then that's it. We're in, and I just tend to, again, it's a job. I'm here to do the job, as horrific as the job sometimes is. And I know that for the person that's passed away or for the loved ones, I need to do a good job so that they're coming in and the trauma scenes have gone.
Well, what has been the most difficult case you've been called to?
Shotgun suicides are the worst. Because of the blast from the gun, the blood and skull fragments, everything goes absolutely everywhere. If there's a ceiling light that's like a cup, it's not like round, or it's got, it's an uplight. Sorry, that's probably the right word to use. If there's an uplight, the blood, and we found skull fragments inside an uplight before. We found parts of somebody's ear on a window.
What? Oh! Huh? Oh!
On the window frame. It had gone behind the curtains and like by the blinds. So yeah, those are probably the most difficult cleans to do, because the bodily fluids and like I said, it gets everywhere.
Ooh!
You don't know where to start sometimes when you walk in.
More difficult for cleaning or more difficult for motion?
Really more difficult for cleaning. Emotionally, it's sad to know that somebody's actually had a gun to their face and has, decided to end their life in such a horrific way. But yeah, cleaning-wise, that's pretty tough. Unattended deaths are the hardest for me emotionally.
What's the kind of worst scenario case you found?
The worst one that springs to mind immediately was for a local local council authority again, that were actually housing people that were seeking asylum. And there was 2 gentlemen in this property, and it was like a 2-floor flat. So one gentleman had the bottom of the ground flat, and he was blind, so he had carers attending to him, and there was another gentleman that lived upstairs in the property. The person upstairs was the one that had passed away, but wasn't found for 4 weeks. But the gentleman downstairs who was blind hadn't realised, thought that maybe he just wasn't coming home or he was staying with friends, and he didn't realise that he was living upstairs with the body upstairs for 4 weeks. It wasn't until carers were coming in and had noticed, it was the height of summer, they noticed the smell and suggested, that the house wasn't very clean anyway, suggested to clean up or do some work, and the bins were right outside the front door. So they said, it doesn't smell very nice. Eventually called the housing officer to come and just do a check on the property in case there were rodents or pests involved. And when they obviously went upstairs to do a check on the residents, they found the gentleman had passed away And I think the most harrowing thing about that case, other than the fact there was a gentleman still living in the property, when we went to clean, the gentleman that passed away, his phone was on the bedside table, on charge. It's fully charged for however long. And there was not one missed call, not one message. So nobody would have known. That he passed away. Nobody tried to contact him. It's when you come away and then you think about, you're sorting through these people's possessions. Like I said, there's photos, there's phones, what medication they had, what music CD they've been listening to, what they've been watching on the TV, if there's a DVD in the box, and all that kind of stuff. So you can picture their life. Sometimes you find things in common, I like Backstreet Boys or whatever they're listening to, I like this. And you think, it's a person that's no longer here anymore, and you're just, everything that they had in the world now doesn't mean anything, and it's all just being taken away.
As a professional cleaner, what's the hardest thing to clean?
Like plasma, so like bits of bodily skin, hair. Sometimes you physically have to scrape. I know that sounds awful, but again, you have to physically scrape the person. They've started decomposing, and that the body has gone past the point of, obviously, you bloat and then you start to, melt, essentially. The skin, the oils, the grease, the fats, you have to physically sometimes scrape that off. So when you know that you're scraping somebody off of a wall or the floor, that's quite difficult to clean, and it's sticky.
Off of a wall?
Yeah, off of a wall, like if somebody's died against a...
Oh! Hey, salute to her, man. Salute to her. I'm curious on what her mental state is, man, because this ain't no task. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man.
A wall, or into... Like, for example, if they're in the bed that's up against the wall, they'll start to then not disintegrate, is probably the wrong word to use, but they'll start to decompose through the mattress, through the divan base, through the bed base, into the floor, into the carpets. So carpets, that can all be taken away, but when it's on a wall, you physically have to scrape that person off of the wall. That's difficult to clean. Well, you're there sometimes face to face. I've had somebody's imprint of their face and their ear outline on the wall where they'd passed away, and their face had started decomposing into the wall. So when you're face to face with that,
that's crazy. That's OD, chat.
And you're scraping it. You realise then what you're doing.
What's the longest period of decomposition you've worked with, and how difficult was that? 6
weeks was the longest I've dealt with. That was for an OAP that had passed away on a sofa and hadn't been contacted. I think it was highlighted to the local authority because the post had started coming out of the letterbox. It wasn't going in. They had one of those cages. So the postman physically couldn't get the post in anymore.
Yo, KBK Austin, you still there?
And so we went in, and they were in a living room, so there was a few doors that you had to go through before you got there. So obviously when the person was found, the smell wasn't as apparent because they was in. But as soon as you open the door, obviously then you're hit with it, and that there was dead blue bottles everywhere. Yeah, and they'd gone through the sofa, and it was just like black sludge, which again is awful to say, but black decomposing matter, and that was pretty bad. Because the person's hair as well would obviously the scalp had come away, and there was maggots that were in the hair. As the head had obviously started to decompose. But obviously the body gets taken away, so what's left of the body isn't there anymore, but the hair was left behind. And there was trying to get the hair and stuff off of the sofa, so the sofa was just taken away for incineration. That was quite unpleasant to see.
What does a decomposing body smell like?
That's a really hard thing to describe. It's like nothing I can smell it now. So when you've smelt it, it will never ever leave you. And especially when we go into places where somebody's been decomposing for a while, it gets on you, like the bodily, because you're cleaning and you're touching it. I think I had to wash my hair from one job about 8 times because I could not get the smell of, this chap out of my hair. So and you want to scrub your whole body afterwards as well because the smell just gets
It still
everywhere.
lingers. It still lingers.
It smells like probably like rotting. And I know this sounds awful, but rotting meat in the. Imagine a bin that's had like some steak left in there for a couple of weeks, in the height of summer, and there's maggots on it, times 100. It's very strong.
Oh! Ooh! Yo, chat! Oh my God! Yeah, that's definitely a smell that you probably would never get rid of. You will always remember a smell of a dead body, man. Oh, man! Woo-wee!
Smell. I've also been to a place where somebody had very severe mental health issues, very badly depressed, and just stopped flushing the toilet. No reason, it still worked, just stopped flushing it. And the feces was so high, it was almost touching like the actual seat. And you always know it's bad if the toilet lid is down. So if I walk into a bathroom and the toilet lid is down, I think, oh, here we go. And I opened it up and it was literally full to the brim of feces. And the worst thing, this is the first and only time I've ever been sick inside my own mask. I had to break the seal as such. So it was a solidified layer of feces. I was trying to obviously clean the feces away. And when the smell hit me, flies came out that had obviously been living in there.
Oh! Yo, chat, I don't know if I can even finish this video, bro. This is some really descriptive. That's pretty disturbing, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, chat.
And yeah, that eye-watering, I was sick in my mask. That was probably the worst. The mask was just filling up with sick. I had to run out of the flat, obviously rip it off my face. Go to the van and compose myself. So yeah, and that's it though. Once you've been sick, I'm not sure, you've opened the floodgate. So it was quite difficult to go back and deal with that. But yeah, you just have to deal with it, it's my job.
When you come to an unattended death, how many of those cases are hoarders?
Probably half the ones that I've done. There are lots out there, especially because a lot of people hoard themselves in, so they can't actually get out. They surround themselves with their belongings. And lots of people try to help them. And family in the end, just if they can't help them anymore or they're so lonely and they've hoarded themselves in and nobody speaks to them, they're not found for a while because nobody knows that they've passed away because they're not being checked on.
What are some of the worst cases of hoarding you've seen?
There was somebody that collected tea towels and they used to travel when they were young and had lots and lots of thousands of tea towels. When we was working with them...
You said what? Tea towels?
Thousands of tea towels.
Oh, okay. Got it. Tea towels, okay.
When we was working with them, this person obviously hadn't passed away, we was just working with them from a mental health perspective.
Hey, Quay.
KBK Beam with the sub. Appreciate you, Gango. Yes, sir, Ski. Appreciate you for the sub, man. Yo, KBK Beam, what's poppin', bruh? What's good, Gango? How you feeling, gang? Yo, I appreciate you for the sub, bro. Appreciate you for the sub, bro. We are 3 subs away from 25, chat. We are 3 subs away from 25, chat. Yes, sir. Hell yeah, gang. I'm just cool and watching this Indiana game. Yo, I hear Indiana's putting belt to ass right now. I hear Indiana's putting belt to ass to Oregon, bro. It's crazy how that head coach turned that losing college to a national championship contending team. That's crazy.
So we also offer services to help them organise. Because people that hoarder, it's like a psychological condition, I guess, where they don't want to let go. So it's very difficult working with people who are hoarders because they want help, but they can't accept the help and don't want to let anything go. So we tend to do a lot of mental health work with them because that's the base of it. Once they get to the root of why they've got the OCD or the obsession.
Yo, Beam, you really do watch, you watch sports and stuff like that?
Keeping what they're keeping, we can then help them move forward. But the tea towels, I remember going and there was, you couldn't even see where it was from. It just looked like a it was a mouldy, white, frayed rag now. And they was like, oh no, I got that in Cyprus, 1978, I want to keep that. And you can't argue. So we just try to organise as best we can, put things in boxes that are clear so they can see what they've, what they have. And so it's still around them. It's just safe
name it,
for
I
them
watch
to
it.
still...
Yeah, I watch every sport, bro. Damn, so you watch cricket, you watch pickleball, you watch water polo, you watch all that?
be in that environment and that house.
You're working with, you work in environments where there might be needles,
Yeah,
there's blood.
yeah.
How much danger are you in as a cleaner, and how do you prepare against that?
Yeah, so there's blood obviously carries bloodborne pathogens, so you're at risk of HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, hepatitis A. All of the pathogens that come with that is potentially infectious material. So we have like type 5, 6 or category 3.
Man, I was watching motherfuckers in Germany cut shit in half and weigh it for a score. Oh, so you a true sports watcher. I respect it. That's fire. I respect it, gang.
Coveralls, so complete white suits with the zip, the hood on it. You have we normally double glove, so you have one pair of gloves and then another glove on the top of that, depending on the thickness that you get with them. The problem is if they're too thick, you don't have much dexterity. But you always double glove, so if the first layer gets biohazard on them, you can take the first layer off and you've still got gloves on. Then you have shoe covers for what you're going into. You also have face masks, obviously, which is the most important thing. If you're going into somewhere that is potentially, there's lots of mould or asbestos, if you're dealing with, other decontaminants or contaminants, you can have a mask that's physically fitted to your face. So if you have a beard, it has to be shaved off because it won't fit to your face properly. But yeah, we have you sound a bit like Darth Vader because it's got the filters on it. So yeah, masks as well. When you're doing a needle sweep, we also have big, thick gloves called Hex Armor is the brand, but they're needle sweep gloves, and they've got like a kind of like iron, thin iron in them, so that when you are looking for needles that you like, if you're in a sofa, for example, and you're feeling for them, they won't penetrate the gloves. Needles can be everywhere, and with a lot of drug dens, they know that the police are going to come out or local authorities, so they sometimes...
Chat, let me be honest with y'all. KBK Austin and KBK Beam, would you be down to do a job like this? Like, be honest, would you be down to be a crime scene cleaner? You feel me? They say you make $5 million a year. All you got to do is go to these crime scenes and clean up. There could be blood, there be chunks of bone, brain matter everywhere from time to time. Would you take that? $5 million a year to be a crime scene cleaner. Bro, $5 million, I'm on it. Dead ass? For real? $5 million, you be a crime scene cleaner? Like, you gotta go to these places and see a whole bunch of brain matter. The smell is gonna be horrendous. You feel me? You see somebody's ear attached to a wall because they just blown their face off or something. Like, are you... Chat, like, Beam, are you being real?
Booby trap needles. So we found them before. You're like on a light socket when you unscrew.
No, I would not. But someone breaks into my crib, I ain't clean that shit up. If somebody breaks into my house, tries to steal my wife and my kids, I'm not gonna let that happen because this mofo's gonna die.
You've got 2 screws next to the light switch. They've unscrewed that before and put a needle in. So when you go to touch the light switch, you could get a needle stick injury. They're everywhere. So you have to be on top of door frames, behind door handles. So it's the most thorough clean that you'll do when you're doing
Serious.
a
I believe
needle
you.
sweep.
What type of person becomes a crime scene cleaner? What makes you good at your job?
I think you have to be quite mentally strong because it is mentally taxing when you see things. You see a lot of horror and a lot of darkness. My world is I get a lot of phone calls around drug dens and brothels and murders and crime and children passing away because of neglect. And so you do separate yourselves. You have to, I am Stacey, mum, friend, daughter, sister. Also, Stacey, the crime scene cleaner.
Has it got easier over time?
No. I wouldn't say your knowledge progresses. So I know, for example, I think the first time I tried scraping someone off of a wall you know which scraper works best, which I know sounds awful. You know which products work well.
One day you'll see it in action. See what in action, gang? What are you talking about, Austin? Right after they investigate the crime scene, I'm locked in. $5 million is easy. Damn. After they investigate the crime scene, I'm locked in. Shit, hey, Bean. Shout out to you, Nick. Shout out to you, bruh. If you can do that for $5 million, I'm talking about, like, you go to these scenes and, like, you see the most craziest stuff. $516,000 a month, beating up the mofo. $416K a month. That is life-changing money.
And how to be more efficient in your job. So my knowledge has increased and made me a better cleaner. But mentally, you know, it does. Every case is awful. Somebody's died. So it's not, it doesn't get easier. So it does really bring you back down to reality that life is incredibly fragile. And, you know, it's nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is never guaranteed.
What do you do to relax and stop thinking about that when you leave that situation?
The honest truth is always have a holiday booked, so there's something to look forward to.
Damn.
I actually go to the seaside. That is what I do. I think from being a child and going to the seaside, that's my happy place. So if it's a Sunday afternoon and I've had a particularly difficult, traumatic week, Sunday is at the seaside, playing on the 2p machines, taking a stroll by the beach. That is what brings me back home mentally as well. So it makes me, okay, breathe. Life isn't all that bad. It's been a pretty bad week, but, you know, you're still here. You can make a difference.
Stacey, what keeps you doing this work?
It's easy to say the money, I guess. It's very good. It's very...
I ain't gonna lie. Interviewers asking some pretty decent questions, man. Because, bruh, I mean, that has to be mentally taxing for you to be a professional crime scene cleaner and you do this on, like, a daily basis, right? Being 4K, beating up the mofo, someone tries to steal my... Yeah, that's crazy.
Highly paid. But that isn't what keeps me going. I absolutely love my job. As horrific as some of the things that I've seen are, it's so rewarding when you turn a house around completely and when you realise that you've helped a normal family who wouldn't know how to go and clean up after, you know, such an event. There are not many people that are biohazard trained and know if they walk into a situation where there's
but they ever do a crime at my crib and when I'm not there, if it's a family emergency, if they hold my family hostage, I'm gonna... Hey, man, yo, Austin, you got to do what you possibly can to protect your loved ones, bro. That's a valid mindset. I'm not going to lie to you.
A murder or even an accident, any kind of trauma, how to tackle that. And to know that we're safely disposing of the biohazard waste and that we are sanitising the area for families to go back into and knowing that that burden has been relieved from them and they can go back to their family home or they can go about their lives knowing that it's been resolved. It's comforting to know that it is a massive relief that there's someone out there that can help, and that person is me.
Yo, shout out to her, man. Yo, W's in the chat for her, man.
You know, examining her mother's body on this dirty red carpet, real tight pile carpet, stained, and her mother had bilateral untreated breast cancer. You could literally look through her ribs and see her lung. And in life, she had been this way. This was not decomposition. She was literally rotting while alive.
Chat. I put something in Discord. Chat.